Hello and welcome to Zero Cool Gaming and today's TV show review. Today we're going to be reviewing a 1980s TV miniseries known as Shogun. Now, this show is interesting on many levels, and the story itself is multi-layered. And how I'm going to break this story down is by just taking a small segment of it and describing to you what I got out of that. Because there is much too much in this 9-hour miniseries to possibly go over in any decent amount of time. So, what I've chosen to do, as I said, is to take a small segment of this show and explain what that segment meant to me. Now, that doesn't mean that my beliefs or understandings are correct. What I'm going to be giving you is what it said to me based on my beliefs and understandings of this segment of the show. Okay. So, the segment that I've chosen to describe in detail concerns a very simple request, to where Lord Toranaga had asked one of his samurai to teach a foreigner the Japanese language. And he had given him 3 months to do this task. Now that, in and of itself, is a difficult task to achieve, because you do not have a long time to teach a foreign language to a foreigner. And this samurai knew that the task that was being placed before him was an incredibly difficult task to achieve. Now, I would like to explain a little bit about this samurai, because when I tell you what he says later, you need to keep this in mind. Basically, during the time that this is supposed to be occurring, the samurai was based on not samurai, Japan civil structure was very military. It had a very military structure to it. There was a class-based citizen for the citizens, and then they had rulers above that, much in the same way that you have grunts in the army, and then you have your officers above that and generals above them, and so on and so forth. The entire structure of Japanese society is based in much the same way. So this samurai, in truth, was closer to like a mayor of a town. He had samurai under him, which basically serve as a police force, and citizens beneath them that live in the town. Now, this mayor was not a bloodthirsty, war-hungry type of man. He was actually a good man. And that is shown in how he treats his citizens and also in how he treats his samurai. He loves his town. He loves the people within his town. And he enjoys doing his job. So, after he was given this task, he knew that if he failed to teach this foreigner their language, he would lose his head as a result. Now, as for the reasons why he would lose his head, it wasn't solely based on this one failure. He had done other things, and he knew that all of that would combine to that eventual outcome should he fail at this task. And after leaving Lord Toranaga, he had 3 days on a ship sailing back to his hometown to consider how he was going to approach, address, and complete the task that he had been given. So 3 days pass. Of course, he has thought long and hard about this problem, and they make it back to his hometown. Upon leaving the ship, he calls for essentially a town meeting, where there are some of his samurai present. There are the major or key players within the town itself, and the foreigner. And what he decided to tell his people was this: we have 3 months, keyword being we, not he, not them, all of us together. We have 3 months to teach this foreigner to speak our language. If we should fail to do so, he will put the entire town to the sword and burn the village to the ground. Now, I know that that sounds horrible, but that is not how it is intended. You see, there were 3 outcomes that the samurai who ran this town were hoping that this would achieve. The first thing that he was hoping to achieve was to get it through this foreigner's head that the task that he has been asked to do, which is learning their language, is something that he needs to put all of the effort that he can into it. Because if he fails, the town will die as a result. That is the first thing that he is hoping that this will achieve. The second thing that he is hoping this statement will achieve is to prevent the citizens of his town from reacting to this foreigner living in their town as they would have a natural reaction to do so. You see, at this time in Japan, the natural reaction for the citizens of this town having a foreigner live with them would be to be very shy around this foreigner and not to speak with him when they are in his presence. And by telling this to the people, he is making it very clear to them that that is not going to be acceptable in this case. They need to speak with this foreigner every day, at every opportunity that they get, to help him to learn the language as quickly as possible. And now we get to the third thing that he is hoping this statement will achieve. The third thing he is wanting to achieve by making this statement is to weed out any unruly sorts that may exist within the populace. Now let me explain to you what that really means. You see, in Japanese culture, the people are polite. And they are polite until they are given permission not to be. There's nothing wrong with being angry at the situation. That is perfectly acceptable. But for a commoner to feel that they have the right to act out on that anger is not acceptable at all. And if one of the commoners felt that they had the right to take their aggressions out on the foreigner for the position that they have been put in, it would make it very easy for the police in the town to identify this person and remove him from the population immediately. And now we are going to talk about the last part, which in and of itself does require a bit of explanation. When he said that he would kill all of the people in the town and burn the town to the ground, it was not stated out of some sort of bloodlust. He stated this out of a kindness for the people, because he knew that if he lost his head because he had failed to do this task, that his people would be rounded up, thrown in prison, and tortured until the day they died. And to save them from this, he promised them a quick death. You also might be wondering why he said he would burn the town to the ground. Again, if he lost his head because he failed to teach this foreigner their language, burning the town was a kindness to remove some of the shame from his family name. By burning the town, he has cleared the way for a newer, better man to take over and build a town based on his beliefs and his structures. Like I said, this story has multiple layers to it, and it is not as easy or as simple as it might seem when you are watching it. Well, that's my rant for the day, and I hope you enjoy the rest of yours. So now I will give you my review of the movie, or the miniseries, of Shogun. Shogun was the first Japanese-style movie that I watched a long time ago, and gave me the desire to learn more. I wanted to understand this culture and why things were being stated the way that they were being stated. My ignorance as an American left me with a lot of questions. Today I have learned that what I am called is a weeb. Don't know if I actually like that term, but nonetheless, it is an apt description of what I am. I am an American that knows way more about the Japanese culture than I should. And that in and of itself is not a bad thing. I blame anime for that. If they hadn't made a form of entertainment such as anime, and I hadn't enjoyed it as much as I did, I certainly would not have learned as much as I have. So, in the truest essence, yes, I would be considered a weeb. And this movie is definitely a movie quite literally designed with weebs in mind. And that is my review of Doom. Or, excuse me, of Shogun. Is that it is a good movie as long as you have a knowledge of the history of Japan to make sense of it. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.